Hey, what's up gamers? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into Elemental Dungeons, one of the coolest fighting games on Roblox where you've got to collect and master different elements to level up your gameplay. Whether you're just starting your dungeon crawling adventure or you're a seasoned pro looking for that perfect element to dominate, this tier list is going to be your ultimate guide. Think of it like your personal power-up menu. Pick the right element and you'll be unstoppable. So, why are elements so important in Elemental Dungeons? Well, they're the key to unlocking crazy powers and abilities that can make or break your journey through the dungeons. You'll be consuming these elements to boost your strength, gain new skills, and absolutely wreck your enemies. But not all elements are created equal, so we've ranked them from the best of the best to the ones you might want to avoid. If you're ready to find out which elements will turn you into a true dungeon master, then stick around and let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking elements in Elemental Dungeons. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of tier list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
A very small portion of the audience is subscribed to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks.
The elements in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: nature, smoke, sand, fire, angel, and water. Alright, let's dive into the C tier elements in Elemental Dungeons, and oh boy, they exist. Listen, these elements aren't going to make you a champion overnight, but hey, sometimes you gotta work with what you've got, right? They might not be the flashiest or strongest picks, but in the right hands, they can still pack a punch when you're in a tight spot. So, let's break down what these underdogs bring to the table. First up, we've got nature. Look, it's not the most exciting element out there, but it has its moments. It's like that friend who's always there but doesn't quite steal the show. Reliable, but not the star. You might not want to depend on it too much when things get tough, but for quick boosts and support, nature isn't a total waste. Then we have smoke, sand, and fire. Smoke and sand are kinda like that average cup of coffee. Gets the job done, but nothing to write home about. But fire, it's got some sparks early on. You can actually dish out some decent damage with fire, especially when you're just starting your dungeon adventures. So, if you're still in those early stages, don't sleep on fire, it might surprise you. Finally, we have water and angel. Water is a solid early game pick too, splashy and surprisingly effective before things get intense. And angel, oh man, it's actually kinda the standout in this bunch. For an epic rarity, it's pretty stacked with solid damage and defense. It's like finding a gold coin in a pile of rocks. Definitely the C tier MVP. The elements in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: ice, gravity, earth, gravity, earth, and air. Alright, let's dive into the B tier elements, folks. You know, these aren't exactly the heavy hitters you want in your arsenal long term, but hey, they can still pack a punch when you're just starting out. Think of them as the middle of the road, not too bad, not too great options. If you're still figuring out your playstyle or experimenting with different builds, B tier elements can be your training wheels, just don't get too comfy with them. Let's kick things off with ice. Now ice is actually pretty decent damage wise, especially for those early and mid game stages. If you're just getting the hang of combat mechanics, the shuriken move can be a game changer. It's like having a mini snowstorm at your fingertips. But here's the thing, while it's fun at first, you'll quickly notice its limitations as you face tougher enemies. It's the kind of element that shines bright and burns out fast, so you'll eventually want to swap it out for something with more oomph. Next up, we have gravity and earth. These two are pretty similar. They're solid, reliable, but not exactly mind-blowing. Gravity can be a cool element for controlling the battlefield early on, and earth? Well, the jungle boss likes it, so that's something, right? Both are good for when you're still finding your footing, but as the enemies get stronger and the stakes get higher, they might start feeling a bit underwhelming. It's like they hit a ceiling where their usefulness kinda stops growing. And finally, we've got air. Air is the ultimate meh element. It's a decent starting option, especially if you're still getting used to movement and quick attacks. It's light, it's quick, but it's also not something you'll want to rely on for the long haul. Think of it like a beginner's tool, you outgrow it pretty fast. Sure, it's not the worst, but trust me, you'll want to upgrade sooner rather than later if you want to keep up with the big leagues in Elemental Dungeons. The elements in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: solar, infinity, Krampus, bunny, dragon, phantom, lava, and lightning. Alright, listen up adventurers. You know how everyone's always chasing that elusive S tier element, right? Well, today we're talking about the unsung heroes of Elemental Dungeons, the A tier elements. These might not be at the pinnacle of power, but don't let that fool you. These guys can seriously kick some tail when used right. And trust me, sometimes you're better off sticking with a reliable A tier rather than holding your breath for an S tier that might never come. Take Solar for example. This one's a radiant powerhouse, shining bright in battles, especially when going up against air and nature types. It's a mythical element that pops up in those seasonal events, so if you manage to snag it, hold on to it tight. There's nothing like seeing those air and nature enemies crumble under the heat. It might not have the godly reputation of an S tier, but hey, it's still blazing out there. Now, if you've got Dragon, you're in luck. I mean, who doesn't love a legendary element, right? It's fierce, it's flashy, and it's got some solid strength behind it. The only catch? It just falls short of that S tier status. But honestly, don't let that get you down. It's still a brilliant pick for any dungeon runner. Pair it with the right strategy and you'll be burning through foes in no time. Oh, and we can't forget Phantom, the ultimate flex from the Halloween event. Limited time, exclusive, and spooky. Everything you want in an element that makes your enemies tremble just by looking at it. It's perfect for dishing out some haunting damage and, let's face it, nothing feels better than showing off that rare event loot. Add in the heavy hitters like Lava and Lightning with their raw electrifying damage, and you've got a lineup that's anything but average. So if you're lucky enough to have any of these A tier elements, don't sleep on them. They might just be the key to dominating your next dungeon run. The elements in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Kitsune, Reaper, Light, and Galaxy. Alright folks, let's get into the juicy part. The S tier elements in Elemental Dungeons. These are the absolute best of the best, the cream of the crop, and trust me, if you snag one of these, you're in for a wild ride. Honestly, if you've got one, do not even think about swapping it out. These elements are so good, they practically play the game for you. It's like holding the cheat code to victory in your hands. Yeah, it's that epic. First up, we have Kitsune. Now, this one's a mythical beast, and it's not just about looking cool, though let's be real, it does that too. Kitsune brings insane power with strengths against earth, water, and nature. It's like a triple threat combo. The moment you drop this element into your arsenal, you're practically invincible against half the dungeon, and those Foxfire abilities? Absolute game changer. If you're lucky enough to get your hands on Kitsune, hang on to it for dear life. Next, let's talk about Reaper. And no, we're not talking about your basic Grim Reaper here. This element takes it up a notch. With its transformation ability and the power to summon minions, you're not just fighting alone, you've got an army at your command. Whether you prefer close range combat or keeping your distance, Reaper's got you covered. It's like having multiple playstyles rolled into one, and they all dominate. It's an easy pick for any player who wants to rule the battlefield. And finally, we have Light and Galaxy. Both of these bad boys pack a punch that's out of this world, literally in Galaxy's case. Light is all about blinding your enemies and dishing out some crazy damage. Meanwhile, Galaxy, oh, it's just casually bending the universe in your favor, no big deal. These elements are all about raw power and devastation, and they're practically begging you to unleash their full potential. If you're looking for the ultimate edge in your gameplay, these S tier picks are where it's at. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.